Hey, this is Julio with Lone Ranger Roofing out in Killeen, Texas, doing a roof inspection. Homeowner called me out, said he was concerned after a recent wind and hailstorm and asked me to do an evaluation. So one of the first things I'll do is just come out here and check the condition of the shingles, get real nice and familiar with them as some of the damage is not as evident as it would be as when you're standing up. So you want to get close and just kind of check for impacts. Also, you can check for delamination, and that's pretty easy to do. You just check underneath the flaps, see if any of these separated, which they haven't. Another thing that I'll note is that we have a 3-tab shingle, so that's the type of shingle that they have here on this roof. And I'll also check for the condition of the drip edge, which is just a metal border that runs the perimeter of the roof. After that, I might take notice as well. I might, as far as collateral goes, check out the gutter itself and see if it's got any dents or dings from hail. This one here seems pretty good. Like there's no sign of hail here, or if the hail did pass through, it was small enough to where it didn't impact the gutters. So one of the most obvious areas to see damage is on some of the accessories. So right here we have a turtle vent. Easy way to go about and check and see if we have presence of hail is to just wipe your chalk across, and it will highlight all the impacts. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Now, there's certain clauses from certain carriers that might say, hey, we're going to exclude damage that's considered non-material or cosmetic. And so this in and of itself isn't going to get a claim approved, but at least it does show that hail had occurred on this roof. After checking accessories, I'll move on to looking at the plane of the roof. So one thing you want to do when you're walking around on the roof is you want to make sure you're not stepping on any of the ridges, as these are very vulnerable areas, especially if they're just 3-tab shingles. You'll start to see a lot of wear along where they're bent over the ridge because it's just a sensitive area. But moving along with this roof right here, you'll see that there is a decent amount of wind damage. So there's 2 occurrences here. Right here, this one is less obvious, but what you'll notice is that we got a crease, and you can also notice that it's been delaminated and it's flapping. So you have a damaged crease right here. Obviously, the shingles that have been completely snapped off are very evident, and you can kind of look around on this roof and you'll see several areas. So here's another area. Something as far as wind damage goes to just understand is it's directional. So when you call in a claim and you file for just wind, what they're going to do is look at the areas that have been affected. Normally, what you can do is check over here. You'll see that this whole plane on this side of the roof has no damage, whereas basically the grand majority of all the wind damage is on one plane. And what ends up happening is they're not going to approve you for full replacement. They're going to just approve singular or just general area replacement, or repairs, actually, I should say. And but again, like some of the hail is less obvious, or wind damage is less obvious. Like right here, we have yet another crease, and it's delaminated, so it's flopping. So the homeowner didn't provide an exact age of the roof, but what I'm seeing here is a lot of once you start seeing this shiny hairs, that's your that's your fiberglass that's coming through the shingle. So I'd imagine that this has quite a bit of age, but it doesn't have a incredible amount of hail damage or very obvious hail damage. Another uh, item that or area that insurance kind of looks out for is if you're going to claim hail, a lot of times they don't want you to mark along the edges of the shingle because these edges normally wear from normal, what they consider normal wear and tear, or from blistering. And so even though that's a damaged spot, what they would rather see is damage occurring somewhere in the inside of the tab. There's a lot of delaminated shingles they are really coming up. I've seen this before where essentially it's actually it might be a nail that wasn't driven in far enough, and the top half of the nail ends up creating damage as the tab presses against it. Yeah, you've got a lot of granule loss here, and this whole thing's delaminated, so it's causing granules to fall off along the crease. But this mark in and of itself is from a nail head and wouldn't be considered, an act of God. It's just improper installation. One thing that might be a bit hard to capture is all the fiberglass coming through the roof. Those shiny hairs that we mentioned earlier. And again, if the fiberglass is coming through, this isn't necessarily an insurable event. This could be considered by insurance normal wear and tear. So, what we're looking for are impacts or delamination from wind or creases from wind. Those type of items, those storm-related damage, those will get insured. But a roof that simply shows a lot of wear isn't necessarily going to have a claim that's going to pass. Another way to check, at least with roofs with gutters, and see how much the age of the roof is or how much wear and tear the roof has experienced, is a lot of times these gutters, if they're not cleaned out, they'll collect all your granules. You can see here, I'm picking up, this is almost one whole inch of just granules coming off this roof. And so, yeah, this roof doesn't have a whole lot of storm-related damage, but it is, it is reaching a point where it's going to exceed its usable life. Something else that's kind of a unfortunate circumstance or just kind of issue is once these roofs start to shed more and more of their granules, it becomes less and less obvious where hail has struck. So, and I mean, obviously hail damage will show points at which there's granule loss. But when all the granules have come off, it becomes less and less obvious. This looks close to what an impact would look like. But again, because we're losing so many granules on this roof, because it's aged, you can see this whole panel right here, this whole square, it's lost a good portion of its granules, and it becomes less and less obvious where impacts have occurred from hail. So this roof didn't really qualify or will be difficult to qualify for full replacement. What I'm seeing here is a lot of wear and tear and not a bunch of evidence of hail. So what we have is quite a bit of evidence of wind damage, but again, that's directional. So a service that we can provide here at Lone Ranger Roofing is what's called a roofing tune-up. And what we're gonna do is replace all your missing shingles, and then we're gonna evaluate all your flashings and penetration. So your plumbing penetrations, we're gonna check and see that this isn't rusted out, that the shingles are placed correctly around your penetration, and that they're still glued down properly. If they're coming up, we'll apply extra adhesive. We'll apply adhesive on your fasteners as well, just a silicone adhesive. Same with these accessories. If they're in bad shape, if they're rusted, they'll get replaced or at least refinished. And then all of the flashing and the shingles surrounding it, which are normally vulnerable to, as you can see here, that are vulnerable to water intrusion, will get re-siliconed. That way you can have a couple more years of life on this roof in between, storms. And then when you have an opportunity to get a full replacement, you can go that direction with it. Another part of the roofing tune-up will include a full inspection of your chimney area here. Again, there's additional flashing that you'll want to check. And, same situation. We'll also check and make sure that there's not wood rot, any soft wood where water's intruding and causing the decking to go bad. But all in all, the flashing here on this chimney is still in really good shape. Continuing on with a roof tune-up, what we might do here as well, as you can see, all this valley flashing here is pretty rusted out. So what we'll do is take this up and replace it. And what you should do to prevent rusting, especially with just solid galvanized aluminum or galvanized steel, is apply a coat of paint, and that'll give it a lot more years of life. But included in the roofing tune-up will be a service of replacing your flashings, your valley flashing as well. Another item that we might look at as well is your skylights. These aren't super common, but they are known to leak. So we'll do a full inspection and inspection of all the flashing and ensure that there's no water intrusion around your skylights. So yeah. So for a roofing tune-up, the services included are replacement of damaged or missing shingles, and a full inspection of all penetrations, ensuring that there's no water intrusion, a full inspection of all flashing, ensuring that it's also correctly installed and not leaking, and then a replacement of any valley flashing that's rusted, such as this patio down below.